Rene, I was rereading University of Gravel Roads, and just the initial part, and there's that prologue at the start where you're a student, you're a biology student, in the early 90s. You see a bunch of BMWs go by, all like tires and fuel, and it looked like even at that point you were thinking, well, that looks kind of cool. What do you think of looking back 25 years ago?
I think I had some pretty remarkable foresight at that time as a university kid anyway. I mean, I was coming from sitting in a van with a bunch of other kids, so this idea of having freedom and smells and more mobility than we had in the minivan was quite apparent back then. And it made a very favorable impression on me at that time. In fact, when I first bought a motorcycle, the first bike that I bought was that same bike. It was an old GS PD, the Paris-Dakar bike from BMW that I bought. And that style of traveling still, I think, offers the best way to see a new place, or a place, but an existing place for exploration and for smelling and for seeing, with just enough risk that makes the reward very sweet. I mean, we can move into a system of traveling or a style of traveling that removes all the risk, but then the reward is removed as well for a lot of people that I know that travel by motorcycle. So small doses of calculated risk and big heaps of reward.
Is there a certain vulnerability of being on a motorcycle then, I suppose? Does that make that connection with people that you're meeting along the way?
Well, I think so, and I think the vulnerability aspect of it is part of the reason why the days are so wonderful. And I think, well, it's also the unexpectedness of traveling in a new place, because you don't know how anything works, really, especially in a place that doesn't use English as a language. So you don't know how the fuel stops work, or the border crossings, or document checks, or any of that stuff. And so it's a constant stream of new experiences, and that can be exhausting at times. That can be mentally exhausting, trying to figure these things out all the time, and it can be a little bit nerve-wracking as well. And I think when people think about traveling around the world, that this is what they immediately go to. All this would be a difficult situation in a difficult country with difficult roads and difficult weather conditions. But they kind of forget that you've been on the road for a long time getting there. And by then you've got to actually get a little bit of a flavor on how the whole things work. So by the time you get to these weird places, it's actually quite a lot of fun to kind of bumble through road stops and check stops and document checks and borders. But to get onto the vulnerability side, I think it comes back to risk and reward, and it's funny. We travel in Africa quite a bit, and we stay in some very lovely lodges there. And we get off the bike and we go into the bar and we're dusty and we're laughing about all the stuff that we had seen that day. And then we'll often see people from a bus that, you see them at the fuel stops and maybe at some of the coffee stops or whatever, but they're staying at the same lodge as we are. So they get off the bus and they come to the bar and they have a beer. And I just can't help but think that we're sitting there and that we've earned it. Like we've earned our reward. We're dusty, we stink, we've been out all day. And we've seen the same stuff, us and the bussies. But we've smelt the dust, we've got the weather in our face, we're getting splattered by bugs. I just can't help but thinking, not in a superior way, but man, we've really earned our keep on our and our beer at the end of the day, in a way that they haven't. And maybe that's the only way that they can travel, and good on them for getting out there and doing it. But I mean, all things being equal, I think the motorcycle, a bit more work, but a bit higher payoff.
Is there a right time to do this? Is there a right time to get out there on the road and do it?
Yeah, there's never not. There really isn't. There's there's so many reasons not to do a trip like this. and for all of the reasons that people can think of, trying to establish a career, trying to pay off a house early, trying to bring kids into the world, trying to work through to a higher position in the company. And I can probably think of some other ones too if we have more time, but the list for going is even longer than that. The trouble is that first kilometer is such a doozy to try and get underway, because there's so much stuff that needs to happen in order for that thing to take place, right? Work situation must get sorted out, family relationships, all of that stuff must be sorted. And one of the reasons I think people try and convince themselves that they cannot go is that they don't think they have the right bike, or they don't think they have enough money, or they don't think that their language skills are good enough, or they don't think that the camera gear or their blog or their whatever isn't good enough. But that's all relative. Those are all stumbling blocks. And in some of the talks, I like to ask the question if people say that it's going to be too dangerous, or they can't afford to go. I said, okay, well, how about this? How about I paid you to go, and I'll pay all of your expenses. Would you go on a multiple-year trip? And then it doesn't go to, yeah, I'll go, just something else is going to bubble up and take that slot of why I shouldn't go. And then if I deal with that, that concern, that another one's going to bubble up. So for some people, they'll just never end up going. But there isn't a good time to go. You just must go.
Looking back, did you feel that? Would you tell yourself when you were starting that trip, like, you don't need to do that. You don't worry about that. Were there ever times where you might have thought there was too much planning, or maybe too little planning?
It's tricky because you never know where you're going to end up. So normally I would run on a 4 to 6 month time schedule for planning, because that was it seemed to be a reasonable amount of time. I kind of expected to be in the place that I'm expecting to go in 4 to 6 months. So I'll check out those kind of countries. But along the way, you'll hit a rider who says, go try and go over to this little town, and there's a beautiful mountain path, and go take that, and then you go on that road, and then of course all your planning is gone away. The other thing that's a bit tricky from the road is doing the in-depth kind of planning that you would do if you were gone for a 2-week vacation, like looking up a detailed history of that country, for example, and reading novels about people from that country, or authors who are from that, or watching documentaries on TV, or renting them from the library. People still do that. But that in-depth style of research into a country isn't very possible because you're traveling all the time. And soon you're in another country where you have to repeat that whole thing. So I think my level of knowledge of each individual country was quite a bit less traveling through it, country, than it would be if I was coming home for 6 months and then going traveling for 6 months, and then coming home for 6 months and going traveling for 6 months. But I didn't have the money for that. That wasn't the situation of my life. So I traveled the way that I could with the money that I had, and that was it. And for a lot of people, that's just the way that it has to be done. There's no real right way or wrong way to do this kind of bumbling around the world kind of lifestyle. I did it the way that made the most sense to me. Looking back, it's still, I think I did a pretty good job of trying to get most of this stuff. Most of the cool things that you need to see while you're in a particular country, like using the World Health, no, what is that list? UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Like using sites like that. So, I mean, those guys are pretty clever guys. They made a nice list already of in a country all the World Heritage Sites and those fancy places. So we try to visit a few of those, learn a little bit about the place where you're going, because that's kind of the point of this whole traveling thing, and then move on to the next country. What were some of the things that you picked up having a business like Renedian Adventures, and is it a dream job? It is a dream job, and the funny thing is it's gotten so big that we have to give away some of those dream job bits of guiding groups. I've guided every group up until this year, actually, except for the two where our two boys were born. We've had friends guide those ones. But starting this year, the guys that we've been training the last couple of years will be taking groups. And it's a necessary step, although to give away that job is a bit of it doesn't make sense sometimes, because you're getting paid to ride new bikes and stay in fancy hotels and drink wine and socialize and talk motorcycles. I mean, that is a fantastic little adventure for anyone. But I can't. There's just so many tours running this year, both in Africa, in Mongolia, and then we're starting South America next year. I forgot to mention that in the crowd, but there's just not enough for me to go around. And of course, the family needs a bit of time too. And this year we brought them to Mongolia, like a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old to Mongolia, and then to Africa, and then to Argentina for the month of December. So we get a lot of traveling in. We just need to balance it a bit more. So so I'll get a bit more time off the bike. But it's a hell of a gig. It's really fun to look at this thing that we've created 9 years ago and see it now running under its own steam, and people coming back for their 3rd and 4th tours with us. It makes me feel wonderful, actually, that it's taken off.
Thanks very much, Rene.
Much
Continued best of luck.
Yeah, fantastic.